In the latest installment of the Profiles in Leadership series, Tony sat down with Oklahoma Congressman Kevin Hern, who chairs, by the way, the Conservative Republican Study Committee. And in that, Congressman Hern shared how not only he came to Washington after a very successful business career, but he also shares about his faith journey. And here's how Tony got all that conversation going.
So let's talk about business. Very successful businessman. Not to trump a competitor, but I started in Oklahoma. You actually represent the area that I grew up in, the Tulsa area. I grew up in Cleveland. I worked at Sonic. You ended up 24 chains, 24 stores of McDonald's. Very successful businessman. You left that to come here. Why?
Well, I look at America being a place that, I grew up very poor. You and I were talking about before we started this about my dad being in the military. I was a product of a military life, a broken family from that. My dad went to Vietnam for 3 times. My mother, who had myself and my younger brother, 18 months younger than I. I had a sister that passed away about 1.5 years before I was born from spina bifida. And my mother was young, and she said, I need to go back to where your dad and I were from, which was Arkansas. She went back, married a guy that didn't really like to work much, first generation welfare, and we lived in extraordinary poverty. I didn't have any running water, no indoor plumbing until I was in the 8th grade. My mother went on to have 3 more children with him, one of which, the first, my older sister, still to this day, still alive, has spina bifida. Her daughter has spina bifida in a wheelchair. So we've lived this very difficult life. But I think life's about a binary choice. You can either continue to live like that, or you can get out and start the grind of life where you're going out and you're facing the adversities of everyday life. And we didn't have any money. I would actually skip school to go work at a sawmill so I could make gas money. I made $12 a day, a whole lot of money. Bought a lot of gas then, though.
I did.
Yeah, but that's really why I ran. Ultimately, was to really protect this opportunity we have. No guarantees, but protect the opportunity.
But that's a part of who you are. I mean, I spent my summers in Oklahoma working the oil field as a roustabout. You couldn't do that today at 16 or 17 years old. Are we depriving our kids of those difficult experiences that actually build the character and drive them forward?
Well, I believe so. I've been criticized a lot by several members up here because I do think hard work is good for you. Working at the sawmill, getting hot, working at 105.
Oklahoma gets pretty hot. Well, Arkansas gets hot.
Yeah, a lot of hay, and we picked a lot of cherries in California. We'd leave school a week early to go pick cherries up and down the coast in California. And I do think it makes you appreciate other things when you see that kind of hard work when you're young.
But there's more to Kevin Hern than hard work and growing up in poverty. You discovered an element of richness that is intangible in terms of dollars and cents. Your faith journey. Let's talk about that.
I think a lot of people, coming from the Midwest, the Bible Belt, if you will say, I grew up in church, and my parents took me to church, and I went to Sunday school and all that, being a Protestant Baptist believer. But I think, when you look at my life, as I mentioned, lived very impoverished life. We didn't go to church. We didn't use God in a way that you would, talk about it as a Christian. And, I went through a divorce. I thought that I could do anything. I was invincible. And, at 31 years old, realized that I wasn't invincible. And, God led a special person to me who's sitting here with us today in this room, but led me to Christ at 31 years old. And I always tell people this story. She asked me, she says, do you know God? And she says, I'm not going to go out with you until you can answer these 3 questions. This was a 31-year-old guy. I was a guy who knew everything. I'd been through all kinds of adversity in life. And she said, do you know God? I said, everybody knows God. She was thinking big G. I was thinking little g. And she said, well, are you a Christian? I said, I'm getting a little uncomfortable here. And then she asked me if I was saved, and I said, I have to get back with you on that one. So that's how it started out. And, about 3 months later at Antioch Baptist Church in Conway, Arkansas, by myself, I felt like Pastor Horton was talking directly to me, and, I was led to Christ. And that changed my life forever. I was at rock bottom, and everything we have today is from that moment.
A great Great story. That was Oklahoma Congressman Kevin Hern during an exclusive sit-down interview that's part of the new Profiles in Leadership series on the Stand Firm app. And I assure you, you want to watch the rest of that interview, and you can do so by downloading the Stand Firm app in the App Store if you've not already done so, your App Store or Google Play, or you can simply text the word app, APP, to 67742, and you'll definitely want to hear more from Tony's interview with Congressman Hern.